share my presentation. Start. All right. How does this look?
Looks good, Brian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Smith. I am the state director or the director of state relationships and government affairs at GED Testing Service, and I've been the state manager for Indiana, and I've also joined by one of my colleagues on our tech ops team, McKay Metzger, who's also joining this, and she'll be helping me in getting the new paper-based testing centers up and running. So today we're going to talk about sort of the unique way the GED does paper testing and corrections. I have basically the presentation you all will get, and this is basically the handbook that goes over everything related to paper testing. Hopefully, and then we should be able to get through this in time, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions, and I'll try to stop in between sections and see if there's any questions in the chat. You can certainly put them in the chat, and if it's something that McKay can answer right away, she can do that in the chat, and if not, we can wait until the break. So with that, let's jump right into 2014 paper test series and paper testing for GED testing. So we're going to go through the specific GED manager training, what you'll need to know about this. The learning objectives are understanding the procedures for paper-based testing on the 2014 test series. So we'll talk about creating accounts, creating a test event, and managing those test events. And then talk about some of the benefits, the score reports that we have, and then next steps for the 2014 paper test series. So the benefits of the 2014 test, just so you all know, if you're not familiar with the GED test yet, unlike HiSET, we have 4 test subjects. HiSET has 5. They're math, science, social studies, and reasoning through language arts. So the reasoning through language arts covers both reading comprehension and writing in one test. So we'll also talk about the scheduled test events. So you're only going to be purchasing. One of the other differences in our paper testing and HiSET is that you will only be purchasing the tests you schedule. So we don't send out a whole bunch of tests and you can use them whenever you want. It's testing on demand. So you will only be sent the tests of the students that you have who are ready to test. And once you've tested them, you will ship them back and we will grade them. So the paper test has pre-populated batch cover sheets. So when a testing event is created, the students selected for testing will automatically be added to that batch cover sheet, which is basically like your test roster. And that's going to be sent to you all when you're ready to deliver the test, and that can be used for inventory to make sure that you have the right tests for the students you are testing. And obviously a benefit of this is the way we do it is less storage space because tests will be shipped on demand in small batches and sent back when completed. So you're not going to be estimating how many testers you need and ordering booklets in advance. Everything's done on demand. So that's one of the big differences between our paper test and the HiSET paper test. So let's talk a little bit about the paper test administrator information. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get your information and we're going to need to get legal agreements in place. So this QR code you can scan, and this will take you to a form that you need to fill out if you're interested in doing the paper testing. It'll allow us to get your contact information and your site contact information, and then McKay can follow up with the specific legal agreements that we need for each site. So just so you know, I know this was sent out to the jails and prisons. If you're part of the Indiana Department of Corrections, we already working with them, and I think we already have their information. So you won't need to fill this out. We'll be following up on getting them set with paper testing. But if you are doing testing in a jail or prison outside of the Indiana Department of Corrections, then this is where you'll start. You'll scan the QR code, fill out the form, then we'll have the information. We'll need to get a legal agreement in place, and then before we can move forward, and then you'll get all the information you'll need about paper testing. So once we have all of that legal information, we will be sending welcome packets to your site. So if you don't get that, and you'll see this recurring theme that if you ever do have questions, these questions go to operations@ged.com. So the welcome packets will include dry erase noteboards, the RLA reference guides, both in English and Spanish, and the math reference guides, both in English and Spanish. And again, if you ever have questions about any of that, you can always email operations. So the supplies you'll need, in addition to the reference materials, you'll need calculators. They have to be the Texas Instrument TI-30XS. Those are the only calculators that are allowed to be used. You'll need number two pencils, bubbling information card. We will get this, we will email this document to you, and then secured box with lock and key, because you're going to need a place to securely store the tests once they're sent to you before you actually deliver the tests. Anyone who is going to be a test administrator will need to certify as a test administrator and pass a quiz. So once we have all of that and we know who the testing administrators are going to be for a site, a quiz will be sent to them. New staff can contact our team again at operations at GED.com to become certified, but you must be certified and pass the test in order to deliver paper tests. And then you will be required to certify as a test administrator once a year. So very similar to if any of you are doing computer-based testing, it's similar to that you have to get certified each year. So how does the paper process work? So let's show you how it will work for GED testing. So you're going to log into GED Manager, and this is a tool that we will get you set up with once we have all the legal agreements in place and we know who is going to be delivering the tests at the specific jails and prisons. And so what you'll need to do, this is a tool that allow you to create accounts for students. So you'll create a student in the menu bar. Just a note, if the student did already take the GED test, maybe before they came to your facility, in another facility, or even out in the public, then don't create a new account for them. We can move their existing account into your program so that they only have one count in our system. So creating student accounts, all fields should be filled in. Your jurisdiction, program, and email will be auto-filled. We'll know that based on what program you're in your email. After entering your facility once, it will be added to the drop-down menu, so you'll get your facility in there, and then you'll just be able to click that each time. So this is entering the facility. You're going to make sure you have all of the correct contact information there. And as it notes there, you only have to do that once just to get things set up. Scheduling questions. So it's going to be imperative. It's on you all to get these questions answered for the test takers. And if you don't get those questions answered, you will not be able to add the student to the testing event. So these are required questions that we have. So the scheduling questions there you'll see, and there's also state-specific questions. I don't think Indiana has state-specific questions, so I think it's just going to be the scheduling questions that you'll need to get answered. So you'll click on the state-specific questions and it will pull them up, and then you'll click on the scheduling questions. These are the questions that they have to go through, and there'll be things about the test taker, that just sort of general information we collect about our students so we have a sense of who's taking the test. So you'll see those questions right there. You'll have those questions in advance, and so you can get the answers from the students and then add them to the students' accounts. So you're going to click on save and add a new student or save and exit. And so that's going to make sure that you save the answer to those questions, and that we have them completed in the student's account. And as we noted before, you won't be able to actually put a student in a testing event if we don't have those questions. So if you realize after the account is created, tester's name or date of birth was entered incorrectly, that can be changed by just sending it to operations@ged.com. Be sure to indicate how the name or date of birth is currently listed in the tester's account and what to do and what it should be changed to. And then do not try to fix spelling of a name or date of birth on test answer sheets, right? So always go through operations for that. Don't change it on a test answer sheet and expect us to go and find that and make the change. So creating a test event in GED Manager. Now we're going to talk about how you go to create test events when you're ready to test students. So creating a test event, you'll create your list of students. You're going to need the student name, student GED ID, which is automatically generated for the student when you create their account, and the tests for each student, as well as the language they will test in. So again, you don't have to test individual test takers on all 4 subjects at one time. And in fact, we probably don't recommend that unless they're definitely prepared for the GED test, because it is a long day of testing to try to take all 4 in one day. But you will need the specific subject that someone's taking and the language that they will be taking the test in, either English or Spanish. So creating the test event within GED Manager under the Manage Student, you're going to select Manage Test Events. So this is going to allow you to create a specific test event when you're ready to test students. You're going to click on Add New Test Event. It's going to take you, and you will select the date, time, and location of the testing event, so at your specific center. So one of the big points here is the day must be 14 days out from the current date. So it's not going to allow you to select anything out from 14 days. So that's the way we have it set up. We need 2 weeks notice before you're going to test. And that's how we do it. And then you will have 7 days from the selected date to administer your exams. This is for your convenience. So, we know that they're in correction facilities. Sometimes there's lockdowns or other things where you have to move things. So you do have flexibility if you can't do it on the date you said, but you need to do it within 7 days of the selected date of the exam. And McKay, I saw your hand go up, so I'm guessing you want to correct me on something already.
No, definitely not a correction. So we do ask that the test events be completed within 7 days. However, there are situations that we can't control or centers can't control, which we try to be as empathetic and understanding as we can. If there is a situation that, testing administrators get sick, everyone has COVID, there's a lockdown, and you need an extension, we do review those case by case situations. Again, we do ask for the 7 days to be like the typical amount of time, but if there's ever a special situation or something that came up email operations@ged.com and we can always review further. We just ask that if you are asking for an extension, provide us with the test event number and then ideally the date that you're able to get this test event completed by and then mailed in, just so we have all the information to review at that time. And then we can always kind of see what we can do to see if there's like a one-time courtesy or like a caveat to that rule. So just wanted to throw that in there that it's sometimes we can work a little bit more than the 7 days.
Great. Yeah. So always reach out to operations if you have questions. They will be able to answer them. And we know, we put these policies in place because the testing, we're very serious, obviously, about the testing, but we can be flexible if something has come up. So just always email ops if you need an extension or need clarification on something. Thank you, McKay. All right, creating the test event continued. Once you click the save button, you can either add students to the roster or delete the testing event. So once you've created the testing event, this is where you're going to start adding students to your testing event. So this is where you'll go through to choose which students to add. You're only going to be able to select students whose accounts you've created and that are part of your program. And again, those students have to have already been registered and had all the questions answered in order for you to be able to add them to the roster. But when you know which students you're going to test, you will select that student, and then you can look for the student by name, email, or GED ID. Once you find the student, that's when you'll select the test that they are taking. And so you'll see if a valid test is selected, you will see the green confirmation box. So it's not going to allow you to test students that have already passed specific tests. So you have to pick a test, obviously, that they haven't taken and passed. And you'll also do the you'll see there that it's under English or Spanish. So you're selecting the language and the subject that they are taking. Again, verify that it's the correct language. If a test is highlighted blue and has a check mark, that means you've selected that test for the tester. The name is listed on the screen, right? So you'll see that that it works. And then note, you won't be able to add a subject to an event if the student is already credentialed, the student has the same subject in another event and doesn't have a score for that test yet. So the student is in a jurisdiction that doesn't allow you to combine languages, but I don't think that applies here in Indiana. I believe you all can combine languages. And the student doesn't meet the retake criteria. The student has an alert, like an age alert or something, or the student has requested an accommodation. So those are the main areas where it won't allow you to select an event or a test for a student. So make sure that you know all of that before you schedule a student. So if a test is selected that is not valid, you will receive an error message. So be sure to read these as they will tell you what the issue is, right? So if it's candidate's not eligible, or if this is already, the candidate already has this test scheduled at another testing event, it's going to let you know. Once all the students and tests have been selected, you can either click the save button or submit button. Saving will allow you to come back and change things at a later date. Submitting starts the process for printing and sending tests to your test centers. So that's the difference. If you're, you're done adding students to the testing event, you'll click submit. If you still want to add students, you'll just click save. So once a test event is submitted, it cannot be changed. So you can't, in the middle of the process, tell us that you want to take people out and add people in. The test event must be at least 14 days away from the current date to be submitted. I mentioned that before. And the test event must include at least one student. That's should be pretty obvious. So submitting a test event, so once you've committed it or submitted it, you will then confirm that you are ready to submit that event. Once submitted, the students' tests are grayed out, so you won't be able to schedule another test event for them. You can export that information into a CSV file, and what you entered cannot be deleted or changed. So basically, once you hit submit, that's what we're going with, and you will not be able to change that. So you can add notes to your testing event. We can add notes back to you too. So that is, you can, if you need to put in any notes, our operations and our tech ops team will be able to see them. They can also add notes back to you. Troubleshooting, can't find a student, make sure they are in your selected program. If you can't select the test, make sure that they don't have an error or it's not a test they've already passed. And again, remember, you cannot add a credentialed student to a testing event. Once they've passed all the GED tests and earned their credential, they cannot test again. And then again, all questions should be, you should email operations@ged.com. And so just as a note right here, the reason why I keep stressing GED.com is because this is a different process than computer-based testing centers have. If you're a computer-based testing center, you have to get certified by Pearson VUE, our partner, and then all testing questions related to that computer-based testing go to them and their call center. For paper-based testing, and it's just administered by GED Testing Service. So those questions need to come to us at operations@ged.com. If you try calling the Pearson VUE hotline, they will not know the question. They will not know how to answer these questions, and they won't be able to help you. All right, how to edit an existing test event. So from the homepage of GED Manager, you can view Save Test Events under My Test Events. In the Manage Test Events section, go to Status field and select In Progress, and that'll show you which testing events are in progress. Let's talk about receiving and administering the test event. Now, I'm just going to say upfront, especially for some of the directions, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because you'll have them and you'll need to read them verbatim. I'm not going to read them, right off these slides to you. But let's talk a little bit about the general rules and how things will work. So after the event is submitted, typically you will receive the shipment a day or two before the scheduled event. So once the shipment leaves our facility, you will receive an email with tracking information on the package that it's on its way to you, so you can track that and see where it is. It is recommended that you submit an event when you are ready to administer. Only submit an event when you're ready to administer it. Again, make sure you know who you want to test before you submit one. And then tests will be printed and shipped based on testing date selected. So that's when we're going to send them. So you get them just a few days before the testing event. So what are you going to receive when once you've created a testing event? You will receive the batch cover sheet. This will have the list of all the tests that you will be giving. You will have the actual tests that you've requested. You will have answer sheets related to those tests. You will get prepaid return labels, and you will get a waterproof mailer to protect the tests. Each test event will be a separate packages. So if you're doing, one week, you're going to get, and then another testing event the next week, they won't be sent together. They will be sent in separate packages. Keep the box to resend the batch back. So that's how you'll resend it back to us. And just so you all know, the tests for these students will be named for the students. They will have their name on it. So that's how you'll know which test is given to which student. Everything is customized for the specific student. So when the tests are received, verify all the tests are in the batch by reviewing the batch cover sheet. So that'll have your roster and checking off each test. Each test will have the student name, GED ID, and there will be a unique ID number at the bottom of each test and answer sheet. So this is what I mentioned before. This is key. The way we do it is we track each test by the student's name. So make sure that you're matching the test match for the students that you're giving to them. And so make sure when you're delivering the test, right, that you're giving the specific test to the student whose name is on the test. So receiving the test, just so you all know, the reading and language arts is 2 hours and 17 minutes with a 10-minute break. It comes with 3 books and 3 answer sheets. So that's our longest test. The math is 1 hour and 50 minutes. It comes with 2 books and 2 answer sheets. And then science is 1 hour and 28. It comes with 1 book and 1 answer sheet. And the social studies is 1 hour and 8 minutes, and it comes with 1 book and 1 answer sheet. So receiving the test, you'll keep the contents of the shipment in a secure location until ready to administer the test. This is important. We really take the integrity of our tests very seriously. So you need to definitely make sure you're securing those tests so that other people don't have access to them. If there is ever a situation where those tests aren't locked up or other people get access to them, then your site could be deactivated. So it's really important to protect the integrity of the test that those tests are secured. Make sure to keep the prepaid return label, the waterproof mailer, and box in a safe and secure location. Prepaid label will not be replaced if it is lost, damaged, or stolen. If new one is needed, email GEDTS with new tracking number. So you'll be responsible for shipping it back to us if you lose that. So make sure you keep all of that. Batch cover sheet will be mailed with the test event. You can add seat numbers if you like, and then you should make a copy of the batch cover sheet for your records, just so you know what tests were administered. So if you do have specific seats, there's ability for you to add that to the form, and you'll see this is an example of the batch cover sheet that will be sent to you. So you'll see it's got the test event day, the test event number, the test center ID, and then it's going to go through the specific student tests and forms. So you'll see the specific students, the tests they're taking, the section they're taking, and then you can then check off if once you received them, once they're shipped, and if any notes you need. And you'll see there's that area for seat if you do use a seat. If you do use numbered seats in your program, you can assign them a seat there. You'll see this is a close-up of the batch cover sheet. So again, just the information I went over previously. If the batch cover sheet is lost or damaged, a replacement one can be emailed to you. The batch cover sheet must be returned with the batch. That's what we're looking at. So make sure you're returning that with the batch. And if you need an extra one, you would need to email operations. All right, administering the test events. Sorry, did I go past it? So once you have the tests and it's time to administer the test events, you're going to go through the process of admitting students, verifying that they're the right students. So you want to make sure, I know even though you're in a correction facility, we still want to make sure we're testing the right students. And then you'll get the directions for administering the tests. So admitting the students must have an ID with name and photo on it. The name must match exactly what is printed on the test, right? So you want to make sure you have the correct student to be testing. Prepare test sections and have supporting materials ready for distribution before students enter the room. Supporting materials include the 1 clean whiteboard per student with dry erase marker. So this is what they'll use to take notes or solve math problems. the calculators you'll need, and then you'll want to have all the reference sheets based on if they're taking the RLA or math tests. And then seat the student, sorry, prior to giving them the test materials, right? Get them in their seat before you actually give them the test materials. As we mentioned before, there is a column for seat assignments on the batch cover sheet. It's highly recommended that you use the sheet to keep track of where the students sit. This is just important for us to know, and also for you to know where you sat each student. Rules for administering the test. When seating the students, verify the name on the test and the answer sheet is theirs, right? Critical that students receive the answer sheet that goes with the test, right? It's not going to match up if they get an answer sheet that belongs to another test. Do not give the students the test prior to seating them, and test the same subjects at the same time only with proper distance. So students must be at least 5 feet from other students, no more than 10 students per test administrator. So if you are testing more than 10 students, you will need a second testing administrator there. Student ID is required and must have student name and picture on it. The student must use a number 2 pencil. So pretty standard for paper tests. Just so you know, if I know some of you have been around for a while and you might remember the 2002 test series that we had that ended at the end of 2013, just know that the general directions for the GED test are different than that 2002 test series. We will email you the script that you'll use. And since these directions are for everyone, in order to make the testing experience the same for everyone, we ask that you read the directions as is. I know you will probably get sick of reading those directions, but that's just the way we ensure that the testing experience is the same for every student. So you'll get general directions for the students. This is what you'll do to prepare them for the content areas and before taking the GED tests. So you'll see there, we tell you exactly what it is you need to say, and you'll go through and read those instructions. And again, there's instructions on what you need to do. Again, the first one, you're telling them to put away stuff. You'll give them time to make sure they don't have anything they shouldn't have while they're taking the tests. And again, you'll read this verbatim. And I'm not going to read it to you because you will have these directions. Again, continuing with just the general directions on how to take the test and making sure every candidate receives these instructions so that every candidate has the same testing experience. So if you're delivering a math test, mathematical reasoning part 1 and part 2 must be administered on the same day. The part 1 is the one where they cannot use the calculator. It's just a few questions. I think it's like 4 or 5 questions. So they have a test booklet, an answer sheet, formula sheet, highlighter, noteboard. So they'll have all that. They should spend no more than 10 minutes on this first part because the bulk of the questions are going to be in part 2. So we don't want them wasting all their time on the first part. But those are the questions, that first part where they can't use a calculator. Then the second part, which is going to be, again, as I mentioned, the rest of the time, they will have a calculator that they can use. So that's why once they're done part 1, you will take it so that they can't go back to it and use the calculator on that. So testers, as mentioned before, they're only allowed to use the TI-30XS calculator. That is the only calculator you can use. So directions on the math part, again, you're going to distribute the documents and then you'll read the script, right? So there's the script for you. I'm not going to read it to you, but that's what you will say. Again, this is the script and instructions. It's telling you exactly what you do and exactly what to say. So you see it goes through the instructions after 10 minutes. You're going to give them, if you have not completed that that section, you will advise them they should. And so the way you see it works is once the student has completed the first part, they raise their hand. You will see them raise their hand. You will go collect that booklet and give them the next part. And then again, the instructions for part 2, we tell you exactly what to do, when to pause, and what to say. And so there are the instructions for the math test. So the other test that's a little different is the reasoning through language arts test. So the reasoning through language arts test has 3 parts. All 3 parts must be administered on the same day and must never be administered at separate times. Each part is a separate booklet that is handed to the test taker and collected at the conclusion of each part of the test. So you won't be able to go back to a previous part that you finished. You have to finish it in the time. Total hour for the RLA test is 2 hours and 17 minutes plus a 10-minute break. So you'll see how it works. Part 1, they have 27 minutes. They'll do reading comprehension. Part 2 is where they will only be able to work on the writing portion of the test, and they have 45 minutes to do that. Then after that, the writing portion, they get a 10-minute break, and then they will have 65 minutes for part 3, which will include additional questions and reading comprehension questions. But they have to stay on the specific part that they're working on during that part. They won't be able to go back to them. They, again, just stressing that they only get 45 minutes on that writing portion. They can only work on it during that. They can't go to any other part. Here are the directions for the reasoning through language art test. So you'll see we have detailed instructions and a detailed script that you will read to each student, and the directions on going through the specific parts and how they will work on those specific parts. Again, more of the instructions and the script for RLA. As you can see, these are this is going to go through all 3 parts when and the break, instructions on what you need to say and how you administer the tests. And then you can see that's just more of the RLA. And so then we also have given you the science and social studies are much more straightforward because it's only 1 book and answer sheet that they're using. And so there's not starting and stopping. It's just starting the test and ending the test. So you'll see these are the directions for the science test, very straightforward. And then continued your directions and script. And then the directions for the social studies. Again, this one should be very straightforward for these 2 tests. So some specific issues that we might have come up. I guess I should open it up. McKay, were there any questions that came up during that process?
No, nothing that was in the chat.
Okay, great. If you do catch a student cheating or acting out, it's important that you let us know immediately if the student is caught cheating. Again, we take the integrity and the security of our tests very serious, and we expect you to also do that if you are a testing administrator. So we want to know if you catch a student cheating, and we want to make sure that you all are monitoring so that we don't run into any situations of cheating. And if you do, please let us know immediately if there is a cheating incident. So you could email operations about cheating, or if there's a lost, damaged test and or answered sheet. If you've lost any of that or any of it's damaged, please notify us by emailing operations@ged.com.
Brian,
Yep.
sorry, real quick, can I just pause you? Rob has his hand up and I just want to jump on this quick in case it was like a previous section.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a couple questions on the previous section. Once you had a slide there on editing a test session. And so I was wondering, with the tests so customized to the test session itself and the students and the subjects and the day and the time, what can you edit on a test session?
I think it's, McKay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those are when we haven't submitted one. You haven't actually submitted it. You can go back and add and change it before you submit it. Is that correct, McKay?
Yeah, definitely. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
They're doing lawn work outside, so I'm sorry if it's coming through right now.
Okay.
But yeah, so if a test event is just saved, you can go in, you can change students' languages, you can add students, take them out. But once that's submitted, it's sent to printing, so we can't really change anything. But anything before you actually submit it, you can go in and edit as you please.
Yeah, well, that's just for saved sessions, not submitted. Okay. And then I got a question to you. In the area of corrections, I think you very astutely pointed out that in corrections, whether it's state or federal or local jails, so much can happen to an inmate in 2 weeks. So I'm wondering, and the tests are purchased when you submit the test session. Do you have a lot of facilities around the country that are paying for tests that never wind up getting given because inmates are released or transferred or ad-segged or something like that? Things like that.
McKay, can you probably more work closer with this? Do you know the answer to that?
Brian, you might need to talk about like the whole pricing issue because I don't know about that, but we do have a lot of centers who have those situations. Someone might get released, they get transferred, they might be in a lockdown situation, they can't test. If that ever comes to be, just email us and let us know. You can also mark it on your batch cover sheet that I think there's like a note section on the very right that's general notes. You can say like inmate transferred or didn't attend or no show. So then it's at least documented in that process. I don't know about the pricing aspect just because I don't personally handle that, but sometimes if there's like a no-show and the student won't take the exam, sometimes there'll be like a block on the exam or it will count it as an attempt. It depends on the state, so we'll have to look into Indiana more specifically, but just email operations just so we can make a note of it on our end and then clear any alerts or inactivate the test event. If it was just that student, we can inactivate the whole thing. So then it won't show up on their record. It kind of clears that test event from showing up that they didn't take.
I think those two things would be very important for test administrators to know in the case that happens. One would be about a possible refund for the test not taken for those reasons, and then does it count as attempts? So yeah, we'll look forward to if you can help us with that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think if they don't, I'll confirm with our billing team. I think if they don't take it and it was, because they left or something, I think we can probably cancel the test and you won't be charged. If it's because, the student acted up or something happened, I think those are the situations where, if there's a reason why, then they won't be confirmed. But I will confirm that with how this is all handled with our team. And I will say, that whole process that we get set up with, the legal process explains, how you'll be billed, and you'll be billed, monthly. We'll send you a bill that explains all of the tests on there that were given, and what you're being charged for them.
And then just adding on to, I will do research and kind of confirm with the whole, if it counts as an attempt and if there's any alerts that are associated with that too. So I'll follow up and get back to you guys all on that too.
Thanks, Rob.
Great questions.
All right. If a student can't test, lockdown, release, sick, test them on another day within the 7 testing window, if you can. If not, return the unused test and list on the batch cover sheet why they did not complete the test under the notes section. Completing testing. So upon completion of the test event, you will send the test booklets, answer sheets, and the marked up batch cover sheet to GED scanning using the prepaid printed label. So we have a prepaid printed label that you'll send it to them. Tests must be postmarked within 7 days of the testing date. After the 21-day mark of not receiving tests, an investigation will be opened. Again, it's better just if you, for whatever reason, you doesn't happen on the 7 days, please reach out to operations and we will work with you so we know what's going on. Returning the test event. After all the tests in a batch have been administered, prepare the batch for scoring, verify all tests and answer sheets are within this batch. Each batch should be returned separately with only the tests listed on the batch cover sheet. No longer need to send the demo sheets, address changes, etc. Put them in the waterproof mailer so that they're protected, and then put the return label on the box. And as we've said before, or we said earlier, that these will be sent to our scanning facility for grading. If a student's test is missing, it will be marked as missing in the student test activity report in GED Manager. So you do have ways to see that if it's missing. If a test is found after you mail the batch back to us, return it as soon as possible for scoring. If a test is damaged, return it with the batch. If it is damaged beyond recognition, the student will need to retest, and we'll review all of that and make sure that we get you another test. If we do not receive your batch and after 21 days, we will reach out and start an investigation. So when the batch is received by GED scanning, it will be processed within 3 to 5 business days. We ask that you write down your tracking number so you have the ability to track the batch so you can see that it got there safely. If you returned your batch and you do not see scores in GED Manager after 5 business days of it arriving in our scanning facility, then email us, but give us 5 days first. But then that's how you'll see the scores. They'll show up in GED Manager. Any questions there before I go and start talking about what you get once you test? Anyone? Okay. So let's talk about the enhanced score reports and the practice test. So you get the GED test has created these really detailed and helpful score reports that are given to students after they take the practice test and the actual GED test. So it provides targeted feedback for each test taker so they know what their strengths are, what skills they need to develop, and how to score higher on the test, right? So if they didn't pass it and they have to retest, it will tell them what skills they need to work on. It identifies the specific skill the test taker missed in the test, and it also provides personalized study plan based on if you're using curriculum or material, it'll do it specifically based on that curriculum if it's aligned to the GED test. So features of the enhanced score report, you get the, you'll see what we have. There's a column there for the GED test and the GED practice test. So it'll tell them on the GED test if they passed with honors, which is 165. It's actually our GED College Ready, 165 or above, or if they got the GED College Ready plus credit, which is 175 or above. So for the GED test, that's what it's going to show. It's going to show them the skills the test taker needs to work on before trying again. So if they've already passed it, they don't need to worry about that, but it might be helpful to know the skills they should work on if they're planning to go to college or to a job training program. And then it explained to them what they did well on. And then for the GED test, it's going to give them for the review my written answers, it's going to give them for the RLA test, specifically how they scored on that essay. So there is 3 traits on the essay, and you can get a 0, 1, or 2 on those 3 traits. So students can earn up to 6 points on the essay. I will just let you know, I know sometimes people feel like if they write something, they should get, some points, but you can certainly get an earn 0 on there. So it's just the way they did the scale. It's either a not good, okay, good, right? So a 0, 1, or 2. Those are that's how they'll be evaluated on those, the essay. So the only difference for the GED practice test, if you're taking the GED Ready, which is our official practice test, that'll tell you, it'll give you a score, but it'll also advise you on if you're likely to pass, too close to call, or not likely to pass. It's also going to show you the skills that you need to work on to get better. So it'll include that personalized study plan connected to your curriculum, just like the GED test does. It's going to explain what skills the student successfully demonstrated on the practice test and what my score means. And then it is not going to give a score for the essay, but it will allow you or the teacher to get that essay on the GED Ready and then provide feedback to the student. So within their score report on review my written answers, it'll show you the essay the student wrote. So this is a way for a teacher to go back and give the student feedback on their essay to let them know how they write, how they advise them to do a better essay. So we don't actually score the writing part on the practice tests. So to view these enhanced score reports, you'll see in GED Manager, you'll look up a student, and then it's going to it'll show you the student's information, and you just click on the subject, and that'll take you to the specific score report for that student. So once you do that, so in this example, you click on the science test, and then you'll see it's going to give you the score report down below, but this is where you can select your materials. So if you're using a specific publisher or a specific product with one of our publishers, this is where you can get it aligned. So you'll see in this example, we're going to say we're using the Aztec Software GED Learning Series. And then as you go through what the student needs to improve on, it'll show you exactly where in that curriculum you go to improve that skill. So again, these score reports are really, really helpful for those students who need to remediate and get better. And it helps directly send them to where they need to work on that skill in their specific curriculum. And then you'll see you have the option to print the score report. So you'll just click on that, click the score report if you need to do that. So especially if you're a proctor, you shouldn't be the one also doing instruction. Our proctors, our GED proctors should not be the actual teachers for the students. So this is a way where as a proctor, you could print off the score report and give it to their teacher to help them remediate. GED Ready benefits. So we do have a paper GED Ready test. If you do have the ability to take it either on the offline version, which we have, which allows you to download tests onto a thumb drive so you don't need internet connection, or to be able to do it if you do have internet connection, just logging in and taking it on a GED.com account. That's always better than the paper version, but we do have a GED Ready practice test for the paper test. So the GED Ready practice test has the same look and feel as the computer-based one. If you're using the computer-based one, the paper one will have the same look and feel as the paper-based one. It evaluates your test taker's same-day GED Ready practice test scores and decide to prepare to take the test. Again, it's providing those focused study plans, which are important. So the GED Ready practice test can be purchased at GED and GED Marketplace. And we will also send you, I believe we send you links if you're purchasing the paper ready tests. We'll send you links to be able to purchase them on our website if you want your students to take the GED Ready paper practice tests. Just some additional information. The following publishers have GED test prep books with good practice tests that can be used by paper testing facilities. We only have one version of the practice tests for paper testing centers. And so these are additional ones that you might be able to use if you're interested they're not specifically created by us, but they are by publishers we work with, so they're pretty good tests. Within GED Manager, you also have lots of reporting features. So you can always do a student test activity report if you need to see the types of reports. So you'll be able to look up the sections that are most used for you, the test event number, the test medium, a test missing. You can run sort of reports based on that if you need to see something. So take advantage of that reporting feature. And then, yeah, so once the testing event is filled in, it'll populate all the applicable tests. So you'll be able to see all the scores, based on how your students did once they've been graded. So you can also run a passers report if you ever are doing a graduation or something, and you want to see all of your students who are passing. That's also available within GED Manager. Any questions before I go on to what's next?
Rob, do you have a question?
Yeah, just to make sure on the GED Ready, the practice tests, are we ordering those the same way we are the regular GED tests?
No.
No.
So,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, Ryan.
McKay. Yep.
Jinx. No, so that's a different process. The test events that Brian just walked through, those are just for the exams, and then the GED Ready for corrections is a different process. You actually will order those through like the GED website. So you'll use the GED Manager database to do the test events for credential testing, and then you'll do the GED.com website for any GED practice test that you need to order.
Okay.
So-
And those can be administered in the pencil paper format also then, right? The GED Ready?
Yeah. And so, Rob, just so you know, unlike the actual GED test, the GED Ready test doesn't have to be purchased on demand. You can purchase, if you've got 50 students who will eventually be taking it, you can just purchase 50 of the math tests and then you'll have them.
Oh, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? Great. So what's next? So once we have all your information and we have the legal agreement in place, you will be receiving a PDF of scheduling questions. So you'll have those scheduling questions so you can get your students, you can print that off and have them answer it. So when you're creating their account, you can just add their questions or add their answers to the questions into the specific scheduling question section. You'll receive a bubble sheet reference card. You'll receive the GED policy and procedures manual. You'll receive general direction for administration of the test. You'll get a link for the certification quiz, and as I said, you'll have to pass that certification quiz in order to be able to administer the test. And then you'll also get a surveillance log. The certification quiz is a 12-question quiz link that will be sent to you. A score of 90% is required to pass and gain access to GED Manager. You will have 2 chances to pass that. And then once the quiz is received by GEDTS, GED Manager access for the 2014 paper testing will be granted. So that's how it will go. Some frequently asked questions. I think we'll go through some of these. Will the general and specific directions for the test be provided in a guide or reference sheet? The answer is yes. A full script of the questions and directions provided in easy to print document format. You should use the document provided to you rather than the slides in this PowerPoint, right? So you don't have to try to read everything off those slides. You'll be able to get those directions that you can print off. So do inmates need to have their own email address? No. When you create an account for them, it's going to use your own email address. If that inmate were to ever leave your program, you can release them from your program and assign that their own email address to them. So if they need their account to continue to test outside of a correctional facility, that can be done. How do we purchase GED Ready practice tests? Already came up. The GED Ready practice test can be purchased through GED Marketplace, and we can send you the links for those if you want to purchase the paper GED Ready practice test. If we already have access to GED Manager, do we still have to take this quiz? So some of you might already have GED Manager access because you're doing computer-based testing or you're a prep provider and have it for your programs that are not in corrections. But yes, you do. You still need to pass the quiz, and we will give you additional permissions. So the permissions you currently have won't be the ones that you'll need for paper access. So we'll give you additional access if you become a proctor for the paper testing. More information about shipping. When tests are shipped to you, they are in a box, which includes a plastic bag and shipping label. After testing has taken place, put the tests in the plastic bag and then in the box that they came in, and use the shipping label provided. So it should be pretty straightforward. There are only 2 versions of the Spanish test, so currently that we have. What if a student passed 4 of the 2002 series paper tests? Do they have to start all over? Yes, they have to start all over. If they did not pass the 2002 series, they have to start all over and take all the tests for the 2014 series. If someone took the 2014 CBT test, can they take the 2014 paper-based test? And the answer is yes. We can combine scores. So if they already tested out in the public and passed a couple of tests, you'll email operations and let us know the student, and we will then get their account and assign it over to the students so that they can just take the test that they need to take. They don't have to restart again. Megan, did you have a question or clarification?
I do got a quick question. Because there's only 2 versions of the Spanish test, how does that rule apply where, they have to wait 60 days before they can retest normally?
Yeah, they'll have to wait 60 days after their second attempt.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
So it's important with all of this because of paper. I'll stress that we really want to make sure someone is ready to pass the test before you give them a test. It just saves everyone time and headache and prevents extra work on all of our parts, that when they're taking it, if they're ready to pass the test, I think that's the best way. So you don't run out of those individual takes that you have and then have to wait longer to retake. Deadline for the quiz, there really isn't one. You just will need to pass it before you're able to create events. So the quiz is a web-based quiz, so we'll send you a link. You will need to use an internet connection in order to take it, and it's pretty straightforward. So then questions, as always, email operations@ged.com. And then we also have links to videos of creating a test event if you want another thing. But you'll also have this version of me going through it too. And so just a reminder to, in order to get the whole process started, let me go back to that. Oh, I stopped sharing my screen. This is the second. This is the slide that you will need to get started, because we'll need to get the legal documents in place before we go through the rest of it. So if you scan that QR code, that'll take you to a form that'll get the information that we need. Any questions, you can email McKay or me, and we will help answer them if you do have questions. But with that being said, are there any other questions that we have about the testing process?
If anything does come up, I know it's a lot of information to fully process in this one sitting. So if you're reviewing things later too, don't hesitate to reach out. My email's here. Operations is my whole team, so they could definitely help with paper questions as well. So it's not end all do all in this meeting. If you have other questions that come up, definitely don't hesitate.
All right, let me stop presenting. Any other additional questions before we go? All right, well, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. I will send around this recording and a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. And then, as McKay said, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you have any additional questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Brian.
much.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice day.